Men's and women's, hockey and basketball. For some winter teams, playoffs are right around the corner, while for others, playoffs are already over. Find out which teams are live. Tonight in Studio 125, we cover it all and more. Don't go anywhere. Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Katie O'Keefe, and tonight on the desk we have Chris Stacy and Kyle Lavasser to talk all the latest in sports on campus. Guys, how do you feel about tonight's matchup?
I'm ready, I'm confident. Big night tonight, Kyle.
Big night. First of all, I got to give you props. Suit looks very sharp, my man.
Thank you.
But also, I know that there's an inflatable sumo wrestling competition going on at the Burt Con court right now, but the real battle is happening right here in Studio 125. Can't wait to start, Katie.
That's right, guys. So first up, college hockey. Men's hockey, that is. And Friday starts the ECAC playoffs for the Bobcats. Quinnipiac hasn't traveled in the first round of the playoffs since the 2005-2016 season. But this year, it's another battle on Whitney Avenue. Yale has only beaten Quinnipiac once at home since 2010, which happened to be their most recent matchup on February 9th. So Kyle, what does this team have to do to beat Yale?
There's a lot of things, Katie. I mean, first of all, just before we look into the analytics of the game, this, in my opinion, Chris and Katie, is the biggest weekend for all Quinnipiac sports, and this matchup in particular is going to be the biggest series of the entire year. Maybe not regarding the rugby national championship and everything, but other than that, I think this weekend really is the biggest matchup, and this will alleviate some of the things that fans have been saying about this hockey team this season that been a disappointing year. If you can beat Yale in the playoffs, that says a lot. What they're going to have to do, though, is what they've done, every time that they do beat Yale, and it's doing well on the power play.
Playing
Yale,
Quinnipiac hockey. Exactly,
playing Quinnipiac hockey, playing to their identity, all that stuff is great. But at the end of the day, they're going to have their hands full with the Bulldogs penalty kill. They're right now, their PK is successful 82.8% of the time. That's the third best in ECAC hockey. And you want to hear a funny stat here, Chris? They have 7 shorthanded goals this season. That's first in the conference and blows away anyone else. So the guy that I'm going to look for on Quinnipiac's power play is Chase Prisky. He has 2 power play goals in this past weekend. He had 2 power play goals at Yale last season at the Whale. And each matchup this year against Yale, he had an assist as well. And he has 7 power play goals this season. That's third in the conference. Quinnipiac's power play is really flowing well when they can get that one-timer to him and he just has that electric slap shot that really bounces off his stick. If they can get the puck to Chase Prisky, the captain, the guy that has been there before, and the guy who, honestly, I don't know if I've met an athlete at Quinnipiac that hates losing as much as Prisky. You should have seen him after the Yale game. You could tell it really meant a lot to beat Yale and not getting the job done, I think resonated with him. I think he's really going to be ready to go into this game, and he's going to get the troops going.
I mean, yeah, you said it all, and I feel like Quinnipiac's going to be really hyped getting into this weekend because, like you said, it's Yale. You're a Quinnipiac hockey player, you get hyped, you get up for Yale games, and you got 3 in a row. How much better is that?
What else can you ask for?
Exactly, and I mean, you pretty much covered a lot of stuff. I think another player I'll be looking for is Odin Tufto getting other players involved.
For
he
sure.
has 31 assists this year, leads freshmen in the NCAA hockey. And I'm also looking for more skaters to get more shots and goals. You have only 3 players in double-digit goals this year. That's Whalen, McMaster, and Pieper. So get more players involved, get more players get pucks in the back of the net.
Yeah, and going off that, when you look at the last game, and maybe you see, 2 goals, okay, not a terrible performance offensively, but they hit about 7 or 8 posts on my count the last time they were at the Whale. Head coach Rand Pecknell said he's never seen anything like that game before. So a couple inches here and there might be a different ball, a different game. It might go Quinnipiac's side, but I don't think this is the team that wants to lose to Yale twice in a season, let alone the one time that it already happened. So I think they're going to be ready to go. I think Prisky's mentality, the mental game going into the playoffs is always so important, even more than the regular season.
And as a leader.
Especially as a leader, wearing that C on his sweater.
You don't want to be as the team known for breaking the winning streak against Yale, but also the team that lost twice in a season to Yale.
Yeah, you better believe they're going to be ready.
Well, in any game, the coach needs to put out his best defense. So when it comes to the net, you got Andrew Shortridge and Keith Petruzzelli. Shortridge has started 24 games, Petruzzelli 10. So imagine you get to pick the goalie for the game for the series. Chris, who do you put on the net and why?
I mean, like we've been talking about this entire time, this is a huge series. You said probably the biggest weekend for Quinnipiac sports. I got to go with the more experienced guy. I'm going with Shortridge. And like I said, Petruzzelli, like, he has started a few games. He hasn't done as well as some people expected to do. He's been solid, but if you're going to get drafted that high, I feel like you have a lot of hype around you. I feel like you didn't live up to the hype. I think we can agree on that.
I can agree about that.
I mean, he is a freshman.
He's had a solid year.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. He had a solid year, but if you're going to get drafted that high, I expect a little bit better. Like, he still has a lot of room. He's only a freshman. He's got room to improve. He's still one of the best goalies. He's still a good goalie. I'm not saying that he's bad, but like, I'm still going with Shortridge in this game. He has the most experience. He has playoff experience. I don't think throwing a freshman out in the playoffs, first game in the playoffs, on the road, especially against Yale, is the best idea if you're Rand Pecknold.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. Throwing a freshman into the fire, if you will. Would you say that this has been a disappointing year and that the playoffs future doesn't look good for this team?
That's a great question. I would say it was a disappointing year. And what you said.
Do you think they will make a run into the playoffs?
I don't.
So, do you think it makes sense for maybe throw the freshman in the fire, get him some experience in the playoffs at a hostile rival environment? That way he's ready to go future seasons from now.
Yeah, I wouldn't start him game one, though.
Okay.
I would maybe throw him in, let's see how Shortridge does game one. Let's say he doesn't do well game one, throw him in there, maybe give him the start game two. But I wouldn't throw him in there right away. Yeah. Let him see the environment, let him take it in a little bit. Because it could be, you don't want to throw him out there and him get starstruck. Like, it's going to be a really exciting game. Like, there's going to be a crowd there.
No, I happen to agree with you. I think Shortridge deserves to start. Yeah. But I think it's an interesting scenario to talk about because you don't know what's going to happen with either of them. They're only 1 year difference in grades, and they're both two of the better goalies in the conference, in my opinion. Yeah. Who's to say one of them might not leave early?
Exactly.
You never know. So it might make sense to give Petruzzelli some time, but I think Shortridge does get the start. It made sense. I was up at St. Lawrence last year when they did win that playoff series on the road against St. Lawrence.
How's the weather in St. Lawrence, by the way?
It's a little chilly up there this time of the year. I got my new truck. It's all start up. It would be perfect. But anyway, on the ice, just as cold. I would give Shortridge the start. He's 2-0 in his career games against Yale. He's got the experience in the playoffs. He's the goalie with the hardest work ethic, according to Jared Wayman. He's got to get the start.
And Pecknold also said that Petruzzelli did miss the last two games due to an injury.
It's a good point.
So that is also another point that we have to put out there.
Yeah. Don't want a rusty goalie.
Exactly.
Well, the puck hits the ice on Friday at 7. And remember, you can stay up to date on all of those games on our website and Twitter accounts. But now, taking it to the court, we have women's basketball forward Jen Fay live in studio with Q30's own Sierra Goodwill. Sierra, what do you have for us?
I am now joined with Jen Fay from the women's basketball team, who was recently named to the All-MAC first team and a Player of the Year candidate. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So another undefeated regular season in conference. How hard is it to remain this dominant and be atop the conference year after year?
I mean, obviously we go into every game. We know there's a target on our back, but we're really just going in every game prepared and just doing our scout and everything and taking no team lightly.
What does Quinnipiac do differently from the rest of the teams in the conference that allows you to separate yourself?
I think our coaches are just always prepared with the scout. I mean, it's detailed. We don't skip over anybody, and we just execute it as best as we can.
And now, obviously, last season ended on a very high note, going to the Sweet 16. You still have the tournament to deal with, but what do you think the ceiling for this team is in the postseason?
I mean, obviously the goal is obviously to win the MAC tournament, and getting back to the NCAAs would be really cool, but we're going to take it one game at a time and just, again, take it one game at a time.
And like I said when I introduced you, how nice is it to be recognized by the MAC, to be put on the first team with your teammate, and be in contention with Aaron McClure for Player of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Obviously, it's nice to have me and Aaron both on the team, but I mean, our whole team is just great. Everyone's contributing individually, and I think it's more of just a team effort. So I think our whole team really could obviously deserve this award at some point.
And if you faced Marist again, you know, they brought you to double overtime a couple games ago. If you face them again in the championship game, what do you guys need to adjust to make it more of a comfortable win?
I mean, I think we could just get our offense flowing a little bit earlier. We know that they're a great team, and they're going to really do their scout on us well, and we're going to do the same to them. But it was a really fun game, and I think it's going to be another fun one. But we're going to take it one game at a time again.
Great, thank you. Back to you guys.
Now, as Sierra said, the team has a perfect MAC record. They've beaten every team in the conference with relative ease. But who do you guys think will be the easiest matchup for the Bobcats in Albany? Chris?
Does it really matter who they match up against? I feel like they're going to play the winner of Canisius and Monmouth. They played them they played both these teams twice this year. They beat them pretty easily, pretty convincingly. I mean, I guess you got to go with Monmouth because they did play Canisius last year. Canisius did play them tough. It was a 63-58 win that the Bobcats had in the quarterfinals against Canisius. So that being said, I guess you would go with Monmouth. But like either way, whatever team they end up playing, I feel like they have a great chance. And I feel like they would beat them pretty convincingly. It is postseason basketball, so we don't know. Anything can happen, and we obviously see that with the men's side in NCAA basketball, so.
Right. Well, this may come as a shocker to you, Chris, but there's actually two teams on the board that I am a little worried about, not in this initial matchup. I think they'll get by with.
All right, yeah, I just focused on the initial matchup. Yeah.
But I think further on in the tournament, there are two teams that they do need to worry about and that aren't going to be just easy wins for them. I think the first of them is going to be Marist, of course, the number 2 seed. They finished 14-4 in the MAC. That's nothing to sneeze about. Their last matchup against Marist, granted it was on the road, it did go to double overtime, and their star player, Rebecca Hand, did have the flu during the game, so she doesn't have that.
She actually had a pretty good game that day.
She did, but who's to say she doesn't steal away that game? So that's one. It's not going to be an easy game if they face Marist. And another one's Siena. They're going to have home court advantage being in Albany. And then their last matchup, Chris, they were leading by 5 points going into the half. I mean, who's to say if they can't compete with that home court advantage, give them that little X factor. So those are two teams, that aren't going to be breezes like this regular season has been for that team.
Gotta love MAC hoops.
Well, if anything, the tournament at Albany should be a good one. But let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we have more tournament talk you won't want to miss.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the Jasper's goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Thanks for sticking with us, and we are back and on the ice again. But unfortunately, ice time for the women's hockey team is over. The team season ended on Saturday against St. Lawrence University in New York. It was a 2-game sweep for the Saints on the Bobcats. So Kyle, what wasn't working for the team this weekend?
Well, Katie, it's been what hasn't been working for the team all year. Where's TTC in front of it? I mean, Chris, I'll compare this, since you're a big basketball guy, to
basketball guy.
To if LeBron James wasn't on the Cleveland Cavaliers, what would happen to them? They'd just be an average team.
They probably wouldn't be a team, to be honest with you.
So, well, they wouldn't be championship contenders, just
Definitely.
like the women's hockey team was when TTC Infrano was at her highest her sophomore year. Her sophomore year, Chris, when she won ECAC Player of the Year, the Bobcats didn't lose a game when she scored a goal. If she is on this team as a senior, this is obviously one of the best teams in the conference, if not the nation.
Yeah.
So not having her around, I mean, just turned them into an average team.
Exactly.
They weren't that good. They were facing the number 8 team in the country in St. Lawrence this weekend on the road. They have a new goaltender in net who needs some time to go through some growing pains and take over for Sydney Rossman, one of the best goaltenders this program has ever seen. So big shoes to fill there. She needs a little time to develop. And you're losing your best goal scorer.
To be fair with Abby, some might say that she was hurt. She was out for a few games. Not really said what. Coach didn't really say what it was, but speculated that she might have been hurt. Maybe that's why her performance kind of dwindled there at the end. But also a thing I look at is that you kind of mentioned it without
TTC and
yeah, sorry.
Well, here's the thing, Chris.
The shots too, and then the face-offs were just they only won 18 of 46 face-offs in game 1, and then 12 of 42 in game 2. That's just, you gotta get possession in hockey. In any sport, you gotta get possession to even get a chance.
Well, here's the thing, Chris. The offense this entire season struggled. They were 9th in ECAC hockey in goals per game with only 1.81 goals per game. If you're adding TTC Infrano to the team, who will almost guarantee you 20 goals for the season. She had 52 points her sophomore year. That completely changes this offense.
Yes.
So you can't really blame them for going up to an excellent team in St. Lawrence and getting swept.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Well, I'm sure goals have already been set for next year, but Chris, tell us what you think the team needs to build on for next season.
I mean, pretty much everything we said, I guess. I mean, just getting in your offensive groove back. Like you said, you're struggling to score. You're struggling to maintain possession of the puck. And, I mean, I guess you gotta like you said, Abby Ives has got to grow into goal. Like, she obviously kind of needs the year off, I would say. I mean, just like this offseason, she's got to really buckle down and work on her game, I guess. Like, obviously, she struggled this year. Maybe she needs to get healthy, like I said, but that's just something that she'll need to improve on if they want the team to be more competitive next year. And like I said, just the little things, winning face-offs just to get possession. Because like in any sport, possession helps you win games.
Right. Well, the way I look at it is plain and simply, their offense needs to get better. They can't expect to compete in the playoffs in the ECAC where there's generally excellent goaltenders when they're 9th in the conference in scoring. I mean, luckily for them, they're only really losing TTC Infrano on offense. Their top 5 point scorers are returning: Melissa Samuskevich, Kenzie Lancaster, Katie Tabin, Brooke Bonsteele, the freshman, and Sarah Ev Katu Gabu. Raquel Penoyer is also maybe a little bit of a loss for them in the senior class. But other than that, they're really not losing too much of a senior class. They got a lot coming back, which is good. Brooke Bonsteele seems to be one of the better freshmen in the conference. And I like that their offense, I think it's just a couple years away. Sam Miskevich, luckily for them, is returning. She's the most essential piece to that puzzle for them, and she can score from almost anywhere on the ice. Brooke Bonsteele does a great job scoring right in front of the net. I think the two of them are really going to lead that offense and hopefully get them back up from 9th place.
Hopefully those goals are met next season. And while playoff time is over for women's hockey, men's basketball is just getting started. The Bobcats are going into Thursday night with a 10-20 regular season record, nearly identical to last year's team. So Kyle, even if Quinnipiac were to lose this weekend, was this season successful?
Absolutely, Katie. How could it not be successful? They were picked to finish 10th in the conference, and they finished 7th. And if a couple,
in the conference, actually.
11th, excuse me.
Dead last.
Oh, would you look at that? Yeah. So when you look at their schedule too, if a couple of those games that go into double overtime switches the other way, they're looking to be around a 500 team with a new head coach.
Not even those double overtime games. There was a lot of close games. It seemed like every night it was going to be a close game. If they are on the other end of a couple of those games, you have a pretty solid record. You might even be in the 5th seed and getting a first-round bye.
Yeah, very impressive.
Especially after losing your top 2 scorers in Pete Kiss and Mikey Dixon transferring to other schools. Sorry to interrupt, Kyle, but I just got to get this point. After losing those 2 guys and kind of just getting your roster together last minute, how could you not consider this season a success with the Quinnipiac Bobcats?
Yeah, I mean, they look like the future is bright for them. I know their incoming class is supposed to be excellent. They have 2 very great freshmen with Rich Kelly, a unanimous All-MAC rookie team selection. Jacob Rigoni, he's the best 3-point shooter in the MAC. I mean, this is obviously a successful season, right? I mean, Baker Dunleavy, first-year head coach, it looked like maybe they would need a little time to get his system together, but they just ran with it and had a very good regular season.
They were in the talks about a first-round bye until the very end. That did not happen last year. They were in talks for the first-round bye for like the middle of the MAC season, but by the end they lost about 7 straight, and then they were done. But they were in talks for a first-round bye for a while.
Very impressive.
Very impressive by Baker Dunleavy.
All right, well, let's take a short commercial break, but stay with us. We'll talk all the talk around spring sports when we return.
Bobcat Breakdown presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown, Tuesdays at 9:30.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
Now that's a sandwich.
Over yet. Let's take a look at our matchup of the week. And if you haven't already guessed it, it's Bobcat on Bulldog territory. Remember that this isn't just any conference game matchup or some good rivalry play, but the ECAC playoffs. Guys, who do you have winning this game? And Chris, tell us why.
I got Yale in an extremely close game. I feel like this is going to be an exciting game. I can't wait to see the content you guys come out with. But I feel like it's going to be Yale. They're coming off of the win that they just had at their own home ice. I feel like they're going to be pumped for this one. I feel like Quinnipiac's going to be caught up a little off guard at first. They're going to come back with a close game, maybe a low-scoring game, in my opinion.
What was all that stuff we talked about earlier, where they were going to be ready, and Chase Prisky, the captain, he's going to get the troops ready? I mean, now you're picking Yale? What was
in a close game. I never said Quinnipiac wouldn't be ready.
So a team that 10 games in a row had not lost to Yale, now they lose their first. You think they're going to lose to them twice in one series? You really think Yale's going to win?
Yes.
Oh, my. All right, let's go on.
Good job, pen there, kid.
All right, our matchup of the week concludes all that is winter sports. But as we know, the spring season is here, and we have a lot to talk about around these teams. But is it all true? I'll read a statement. You guys say whether it's fact or fiction. So let's start with the first one. The baseball team swept William & Mary last weekend in Virginia, tallying up 27 runs in 3 games. Some say the hitting is for real. Kyle, is this fact or fiction?
Right now, I'm going to go with fiction, Katie. Only 6 games in. It's tough. The big thing for me, Chris, is that they're averaging about 10 strikeouts per game. That's not going to get it done in a consistent fashion for the entire season. They got to put the bat on the ball.
I'm going to go facts. I mean, 27 runs in 3 games. That's pretty impressive to me.
Against William & Mary and Abilene Christian are not two very good teams.
It's a promising start. Can we agree on that?
It's a small sample size, but yes.
Second, like baseball, softball was picked 8th in the MAC preseason coaches poll. Chris, do you think it's true that they could finish 6th or even higher?
I think they can. They have played the teams they've played so far pretty tough. They have only 1 win, but it came in a 9-inning game. I feel like this team, once it comes to conference play, they can grind out some games.
I agree. And the reason is softball runs through pitching. And when you have Casey Herzog, a senior who is established and proven, yeah, I think they are going to be one of the 6 best teams in the MAC.
Third, men's lacrosse isn't starting their season exactly on the right foot either. But a 1-2 record, but freshman attack Jake Tomsky stands out with the team's most goals at 8. Would you say it's true that the freshman finishes the season the way he started? Kyle, what do you say?
I think he does, Katie. I don't really see anyone else on the roster, maybe other than Matt Frost, that might take over. I like the freshman leading at the end of the day. I mean, it might take a while, and it's a short season, and I think the rest of the MAC is going to take a while to figure out this kid and how to stop him on offense.
Kid's a gamer. I really like him. The games I've seen him so far, which is only 3, he's played excellent. I think he leads the team in goals this season.
All right, last one. Women's lacrosse also has a new player to watch. Sophomore goalie Allie Kelsey has come off the bench to play 36 minutes in net this season. Chris, fact or fiction? Kelsey will be starting goalie within the next 3 games.
No, you have Kyle Larkin, who took you to the playoffs for the first time in a while last year. Why would you go away from her? That's fiction.
Because she's a senior, and you have a sophomore in net. What are they going to do next year? Give her the while it's the out-of-conference schedule.
You're going to start her?
Don't make her the starter. Get her maybe one start in the next 3 games.
But the question is, what are you going to make her a starter? So no.
For 1 game, yeah. That doesn't mean the rest of the season.
I don't know about
You're not just determining the rest of the season just based off 1 game. But I would give her 1 start in an out-of-conference game when you know your current goalie is going to graduate. Give her some practice.
I don't agree with that.
We'll have to agree to disagree. Now let's hear it for the final wars. There's a lot of sports to choose from, so Kyle, why don't you start us off?
The men's hockey team is set to begin the conference playoffs against rival Yale this weekend. The Bobcats' sub-500 record is now irrelevant because, as Rand Pecknold puts it, they're undefeated in the postseason. Now, the odds don't look promising for the Bobcats to return to the ECAC hockey semifinals for an impressive 6th year in a row. Even if Quinnipiac defeats Yale on the road this weekend, they would most likely have to travel to nationally ranked number 2 Cornell, who has only lost 4 games all season. Even though this doesn't look like Quinnipiac here, the future does look bright. Captain Chase Prisky is only a junior and will be instrumental all over the ice and in the locker room next year. Alex Whalen has 2 more years in the blue and gold, and if the jump he took from his freshman to sophomore year continues, he could be one of the league's best scorers. And there's the favorite for ECAC Rookie of the Year, Odin Tufto. His 39 points lead all freshmen in the nation. Prisky, Whalen, Tufto, not to mention the 8 forwards Pecknold is adding to the roster for next year, should drive next year's scoring.
Let's go back to men's lacrosse team for a second. After winning the MAC in 2015 and winning an NCAA tournament game the same year, not even winning a MAC game the next year, the Bobcats are off to a 1-2 start in 2017. So, is there cause for concern for this team? I say no, because of the change this team is going through. No more Jack Brust in goal. That position belongs to Carson Coco. Brian Feldman is now a midi. His old position belongs to freshman phenom Jake Tomsick. The Bobcats also had a pretty tough out-of-conference schedule that has seen them play 2 overtime games and 2 top 25 ranked opponents. This team will have some growing pains, but give the Bobcats some time. These are new players in that new shiny Quinnipiac field. The Quinnipiac men's lacrosse team will be back sooner or later back on the top of the MAC.
Sneak peeks of warmer weather on campus have students excited for all those spring sports, including the baseball team. They were swept in their first series of the season by Abilene Christian, but bounced back and recorded a sweep of their own this past weekend against William & Mary in Virginia. First baseman Liam Scaffarello looks to build off his strong sophomore campaign in which he leads the Bobcats 16 home runs. Shortstop Dylan Lutz has big shoes to fill after last year's starter as Matthew Benton was selected by the Milwaukee Brewers in the MLB draft. But with 4 hits in his last 3 games, he looks up to the task. Catcher Tony Cruz and starting pitcher Taylor Luciani are 2 seniors that will look to lead the Bobcats, a team that was picked to finish 8th in the conference this year. With that, Bobcat Breakdown is over, but with both basketball teams and the men's hockey team traveling for playoffs, make sure you stay up to date on all of our social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and visit our website at Q30TV.com. For the whole producing staff, Chris Dacey and Kyle Lavasser, I'm Katie O'Keefe. See you next week, same time, same place.